Hello and welcome to the Free Cheese, episode 553. I am your Joe Dix, joined by Matt Zellner.
Hello.
The Free Cheese is a weekly video game podcast about video games brought to you once a week by thefreecheese.com. Matt, this week, talking about Tetris Effect Connected. More on why and what it means later on, but Matt, what's your favorite Tetris?
Oh, man. It could be Effect, but it also could be the Game Boy Color. Or, not Color. The Game Boy.
They did have a Tetris DX on Color, so you're not...
No, but I mean, the free
original,
package
yeah.
in... A lot of hours spent there. A lot of hours spent there.
I love... Yeah. It's hard to go back to not having a fast drop, but I'm with you. I think my answer is typically NES, because I love the color palette of all the different stages. But I will say that our long-running co-host, Mark, turned me on to Tetris DS. It incorporates a lot of Nintendo stuff and whatnot. That one's very good. You can't go wrong. Well, you can go very wrong with Tetris, as it turns out. There's a couple of them that they just feel pretty bad, but I think that's why now they have like an actual. They have very clear definitions when someone wants to make a Tetris game on what a Tetris game must be, and it's something that publisher Enhance Games got to know firsthand when making Tetris Effect. I will add the caveat, though. We are specifically talking about Tetris Effect Connected. We previously ranked Tetris Effect at the top of our Game of the Year list back in 2021. Now for Season 12, we're going to talk about Tetris Effect Connected. Matt, this is our fourth Wii Sports Killer. We started off the year with Halo, followed it up with Super Mario Galaxy 2, continued with Pokemon Gold and Pokemon Silver, and now Tetris Effect Connected. So this is part one. We'll have a second part later this year in August. But for today, we're going to talk about what changed from Tetris Effect to Tetris Effect Connected. Tetris Effect Connected, developed by Monstars and Raisonnaire, with Stage Games specifically assisting on the Connected version. Published by Enhance Games, first released on Xbox One X and on Xbox One, Series X and S on November 10th, 2020. And then would later come to PS4, 5, Switch, and PC. Of course, the original version originally launched on the PlayStation 4. But Connected was, I forgot that Connected was an Xbox exclusive for a little while.
That was launch day of Series X, I believe, right?
It was, and it launched on Game Pass.
Yep, that was the first thing I played on my Series X.
I think when I got my Series X, if it was not the first, it was one of the first things, because I finally had a 4K device, right? Like I could finally output.
Yeah, it was a quick download compared to some other stuff too.
Yeah, exactly. Believe it or not, there is a physical box of this for me to get a back of the box reading from, thanks to limited run games and a random seller on eBay. Tetris, like you've never seen it, heard it, or felt it before. Take a trip. Journey through 30 plus stages solo or any of 10 plus modes tailored to your mood. Head to head. Challenge friends locally or online in one of 4 multiplayer modes. There it is. Tetris Effect. It's a weird back of the box, but you know.
It gets there.
Yeah. So, talking about Connected, Matt, why did you... This is your second nomination for a Wii Sports Killer. Why Connected specifically over Tetris Effect?
Connect. So one of the reasons was Tetris Effect. Tetris, just in general, is like one of the biggest pick up and play universally known games. Wii Sports, also very pick up and play universally known video game to the masses. I was thinking of a franchise that had as much like general appeal as as close as I could get to Wii Sports, and I think Tetris probably is, if not the one, amongst nominees and criteria to meet that. And then Connected, there's a couple things why Connected specifically. One, we've already talked about Tetris Effect at length on this podcast. Yes, it's been talked about in Game of the Year discussions, Game of the Year discussions, and it's always constantly brought up in both a positive and negative light if one Ben Barris is around, on the podcast. So, I forgot where I was going with this. So, yes, I sorry. That's why I wanted to bring up Connected, because we had not talked about the multiplayer piece of Tetris Effect yet. And, Wii Sports is probably at its core more of a multiplayer game than a single-player game, although the single-player is underrated, as we have said multiple times already. Tetris Effect Connected, I think, has an underrated multiplayer experience here in some of the time I've spent with it. So, yeah. There's why we picked Tetris Effect Connected.
Yeah, I think... I very rarely play multiplayer games to begin with, but I feel like when I do, it's with you and other people who have been on this podcast. But Tetris Effect specifically, I've only ever played multiplayer with you. So that's been my whole experience. I did try to link up with strangers and play this a couple months back, just because I'll try not to go too far into complaining about PSVR 2 this episode, but, trying to be an owner and enjoyer of that thing, I try to use it as frequently as I can. I tried to pair up with strangers and could not get into a match. But I've had a lot of fun playing Connected with you. It has to be with you specifically. You're the only one I can say.
We play with Mark.
No, yeah, Mark. I just mean I've not been able to play
like anything.
With, yeah. But I'm also happy that you putting it on the list, because while we did play it before, we really only played it the one time for a long time. We spent a really significant amount of time playing it, but since then, obviously for the podcast now, we've gone back to it. But we also get to see the other multiplayer modes this time around, which is cool. And I think we learned a lot about how we each play and our strengths and benefits. And there's an interesting gameplay. It's funny to see how it works competitively and cooperatively in all of these different multiplayer modes. So why don't we break down what the new modes are, and then we'll kind of talk a bit about each of them, what we like, don't like, et cetera, et cetera. We'll start with... Actually, why don't we start with the competitive stuff? Because I feel like Connected is the...
Yeah, I agree.
So let's talk about Score Attack. There's two versions of Score Attack. There's Classic Score Attack and Score Attack. The classic version of Score Attack, it kind of does what I want it to do. It uses the visual color schemes and everything from the NES version of Tetris, and it puts together, it assembles the versus format you're doing. It's like what they use in the official world championship for Tetris. This is the legit of the legit. If you're doing a head-to-head versus in NES Tetris, this is what you're playing. So it finally gives people, a chance to do that in Tetris Effect, which I think to back up a bit too, I got a little ahead of myself. That was the thing with Tetris Effect for me specifically, is that first game was perfect. Tetris Effect, beginning and end. To Matt's point earlier, we've talked about it extensively on the show. I know I gave it, I don't remember if I gave it my game of the year 2018, but it was definitely my vote.
You argued it. I remember you arguing it.
Yeah. We ended up giving it to God of War. But I had to give you a win.
How things change.
I know, right? Especially because I hated God of War and didn't finish it. You were the only one
Now, I don't hate that game.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying...
I didn't play the sequel, though, so that's just kind of where my path has gone.
No, yeah, that's a good point. But as much as I loved Tetris Effect, it was missing a multiplayer mode. You know, even locally, there was no way to just, like, hand someone a controller and say, hey, play with me on the couch, let alone online. So Connected really added that. And I think what it ended up doing ultimately is it created a series of multiplayer options that kind of suit all Tetris needs historically. So back to classic score attack. We've got classic score attack, which allows you to play it traditionally. You can do this. What do you call it? With different parameters, like you can set and customize your different rule sets. Like if you want to just follow standard, you can. Yeah, but like you can tweak it so if you have specific rules that you and your friends like to follow and play by, you can. You can change the initial speed level, things like that. The catch is with classic, there's no fast drop and or hard drop, and there's no storage. You can't. I'm pulling my L1 trigger here, but yeah, you can't store a piece and hold it for next. And then
they also something, I guess, the hardcore players, the tetraminos. How do you say that word? I should know.
You know, I always said tetramino, and then I feel like I read it again recently, and it's completely not that at all. I'll figure that out, but yeah, go ahead.
The objects that we are dropping that have 4 squares, they lock down immediately when they touch. So T-spins are, I guess, impossible, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and they that's a really good point. The newer games, you have this like little bit of wiggle room when you place.
Again, it's a hardcore thing, but with the official listing from Tetris Effect.game, they did mention that in Classic Score Attack, which I found interesting.
Yeah. And then Score Attack, it's similar, right? Like you're just seeing who can get the higher score. But in Score Attack, you're not limited. You're playing with more of the modern rule sets. So you have, you do have fast drop, hard drop.
Modern.
Yeah.
Is modern Tetris really without the effect times time thing, which is where you kind of go into the next one, where it's a zone battle. Yeah, it's it has the time stopping mechanic on top of all the other additions that you've gotten in previous releases of Tetris.
Yeah, and then with this time, the thing they do with the zone mechanic, so just a refresher for zone mechanic for people who haven't played this in a while, it's where you hit R2, L2 at the same time. First, you clear a set number of lines, you build up your zone, and when it's ready, you pull L2, R2, or whatever your equivalents are on your platform, and that activates zone, which in standard Tetris Effect, it just sort of slows down the rate in which your pieces fall. And then as you clear lines at the top, it pushes them to the bottom and collects them all up. Where this varies in multiplayer mode is, that's all stuff that ends up as garbage, right? So you can really screw over whoever you're playing against.
You can use it as defense as well, because you have time to kill the incoming dirtbag lines you're about to get. so you could stop time when you see them pending and knock down, like use the lines you're getting while time is stopped to knock down what is about to be sent your way as well.
Of those, do you have a favorite or a preference, or?
So it's weird. Like I've seen the visuals here, which on an audio podcast doesn't work, but like, the classic has, like you said, a classic NES score attack kind of is not it looks more modern, but it doesn't have the effect stuff. But like the zone of battle very much is like your effects background with some of the music and stuff like that. So like, as not like a big competitive Tetris player, like I will play it with friends and have fun and whatever. Like I guess we'll go into it. Like at the end, I'm not very good at Tetris at the end of the day, or at least not the way you're supposed to play it. So the zone battle stuff looks pretty as I'm playing it.
No, but I think it's the opposite, right? So this is what I teased at the beginning with our play styles, but Matt and I got to see like how each of us play Tetris, and Matt is more. I think you're more line focused, line by line, right?
Yes,
like
clean board.
Yeah, here's my piece. Let me keep this as low as possible. Where I like to build and then get Tetrises one after the other. I'm usually building for the pipe or the eye shape Tetris piece. Like I usually try and build so that I've got a big wall, and then I can drop that down. And then if I get pieces that aren't the big eye, I can just start continuing to build my wall. But that's not the most strategic. It's good when it works, but when you're not getting the piece you need, it makes it really difficult. Very rarely have I been able to like do what you're supposed to do is just slam on the, like, just throw everything down and then clean as you go. And it's crazy. It's madness when you see like some of the higher level play with this happen. But that's where I think the single player stuff in this, where you have some of those challenge modes that let you sort of see, here's random assortments of pieces or things hung over, and it lets you kind of practice like, okay, given the pieces I have, how can I clean this up effectively? But yeah, I build high and then try and do waves of getting full 4-line Tetrises, where Matt will do more of a like line by line clear, quick, rapid pace. And what ends up happening is I build up so much junk that I'm easier to knock out. But I do have, did I have higher line clears and score? Or one or the other?
It was score. Yeah. You have a higher... I love the stats. I don't know. I guess there has to be other Tetrises that give you the stats. But
I'm sure there are, yeah, but...
Yeah, it was fun to see the stats at the end of rounds. Your drop rate, like your piece, like drop per whatever, I guess per minute. What you like doubled me half the time, because I guess it comes in. I guess I'm a little bit slower too, but like just strategically thinking like, how can I best get this piece to be flat? Yeah. 2 pieces down the road.
I don't know what it is. I don't know where that happened. I don't know what it had to have been. Playing it on Game Boy, right? Just like this is the thing that made sense in my brain back then, and I've just always done it that way.
I don't know. I really don't.
And I will say, like, as much as I love Tetris Effect for everything it has done for Tetris, I don't think it's changed me as a Tetris player that much. The one that recently I've explored that did kind of challenge me and make me rethink is the Grandmaster Challenge. This.
Yeah, I forgot you played that.
I've really, really liked that one.
Can we take a second to shout out the box art for 3?
Dude, box art for the Tetris the Grandmaster 3 : Terror Instinct. Yeah, it's one, it's got a great name. 2, yeah, it's just got the most haunting box art you've ever seen. Like, why is that a Tetris game at all?
Would you ever think to have terror would be in the name of a Tetris game?
No, not at all. But, you know, shout out to Eureka. But yeah, playing that one, which those are available on modern platforms. You should go check out at least Tetris the Grandmaster and Tetris the Grandmaster 2 are all available on Switch and PS4 and PC, I think. Maybe not PC, but yeah, check those out. They're fun. But those are hardcore, and like, getting good at those, like, really, I can't remember now, they may not have hard drop in the first one, but that's the thing that kind of like you're forced to play differently. That and Tetris 99, which Tetris 99 was kind of the original companion to Effect for me, because Effect was 2018 and 99 was 2019. And 99 was all multiplayer, and this was all single player at the time. And I still, as much as like 99 was fun to go through, I still felt like it was not. It's still fun. I still fired. I don't know the last time you played it, but like I still will jump in, play it, have a good time with it. And I have to then play like you play, where it's like just go because people are dumping garbage on you.
Oh, it's a mess.
It's chaos. But having Connected come back around and add all of these different modes, it did, I think, complete the package. Yeah, I think I had more fun with Zone Battle and Score Attack than Classic Score Attack, as much as I hate to admit that. But at least with Score Attack, you still get the color scheme.
Yeah, not having hard drop is very weird.
Yeah.
Even, like, you have been playing Tetris. I think you had just played through this before. Like, when we started playing together, I probably haven't played Tetris in a few months, at least. And, so, like, that was the first one we went into, so, like, I wasn't, like, as hard-pressed not having a hard drop, but immediately go into the next thing and having it back was like, oh, right, this is a very good modern convenience.
Yeah, because I've been playing it, the Journey mode in VR and stuff, and just, like, you get, your muscle memory, it messes with you. So those are kind of the competitive head-to-head modes. And then there's Connected. And there's two iterations of Connected. There's Connected and Connected Versus. We'll just describe the main Connected and then tell you what's different in Versus. You want to break it down, Matt? The old Connected proper?
Yeah, Connected mode it's co-op Tetris, which is, I think is that brand new to Tetris? Has there ever been like a co-op thing before?
Oh man, I don't know.
I don't remember there being one, but I don't know. Anyway,
there's so many different iterations.
So it's co-op Tetris. It's essentially 3 players versus. I guess this is actually the main difference between Connected mode and Connected mode versus either an AI. A 3v1 against the AI, a 3v1, 3 humans versus 3 humans versus 1 human. But yeah, it's essentially 3 versus 1, and it's a computer, and it's kind of like a campaign in itself. You're going through the different what are they called? The
Zodiac
Aquarius
signs.
Zodiac signs. There you go. Yeah, so it's 3. The 3 humans. You each have your separate boards, and you'll see like one circle that kind of represents like the zone meter that you may be familiar with from Journey mode or some of the other multiplayer modes. And as you're clearing lines and scoring and stuff, this meter is building. And when it hits the end, all of a sudden your boards combine. And then, it's like turn by turn, and you're doing this giant... like I said, the 3 boards combined into one, and you're going turn by turn is trying to clear lines. And there's different pieces, like some of them, you have your default pieces, but then some of them like will fall. Like if you have like let's say like a straight line, you put a horizontal and there's gaps where you're putting the horizontal, bar or whatever. Some of the squares will go into those gaps to help fill them in. They're colored.
Yeah, it's like you don't have to have a perfect fit.
Yeah, are they colored like pink or purple or something like that?
Yeah, they almost look like they're like corrupted pieces or something. They're like the dark link of Tetris pieces.
So you're just kind of, working together, and it's weird. Like you can show where you plan to put your piece, even though it's not your turn, and you work together, and it's like this race of coordination and speed and trying to clear as many lines, because depending on how many lines you clear, you dump crap onto the AI board. And essentially, I would say most of the time, depending on if you're doing well enough, it takes 2 of those, 2 decent size clearing co-op phases to kind of knock out an AI. And while this is happening, it might seem a little unfair. Oh, it's just 3 against 1. While the computer is clearing stuff, they are sending things at you, and that could be, random bullcrap lines. Later levels turn your board invisible, which that is a pain in the ass if I've ever seen it.
Yeah. So every boss that you fight, there's 5 areas. Each of the first 4 areas goes through 3 of the zodiac signs, and each zodiac member has its own signature move, as well as some other moves they might employ.
I don't know if it's a signature move.
And usually, I think the signature doesn't. I don't know how frequently, but usually that's the one that they'll like kind of go to the most, which is why later on, because you don't get hide field as an enemy attack until
it's area 4.
It's the very last. It's Leo, the final boss in area 4. Because prior to that, there's no hide field. But yeah, once you get there, dude's just hiding your playfield left and right. But yeah, there's like earlier on, you'll get things where like the pieces you have are gigantic. You'll have some in the middle where like it just sort of like rotates your board so that, if you're setting up all those nice clean lines, all of a sudden everything you did was screwed up, or in some cases fixed because they fixed the mistakes you'd already laid down in the field.
It's a the 4 things. You get 5 squares. So quinimos, however you say it.
Yeah.
You, all of a sudden you start getting shapes of 5 that you have to deal with instead of your typical 4, and they come, of course, as you can expect, in all kinds of different patterns and organization.
Here, I got the name for it. It's there's trimino and pentamino.
Pent. Oh yeah, pent. Yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot about the 3. Well, 3s were easy.
3, yeah, 3. It's
That was more helpful, I think, than anything. So you're, as the AI is, or the one board is clearing all this stuff, they're throwing that junk at you, to prevent you or slow you down from filling that meter to then go again back into combine where you're clearing lines and sending junk their way. And it's a battle of, let's just say, good and evil.
Yeah. But the AI is also, I never watch their meter because I'm so focused on what we're doing, but their meter's filling, and each time their meter fills, they throw attacks at you and drop junk on you. The other piece that's kind of neat is there's a revival. So obviously in multiplayer modes, when you fill your board, or in any Tetris, if you fail, you usually have to restart. But in multiplayer mode, when it's head-to-head, like when Matt and I were doing the competitive score attack stuff, if I lost, matches played out, it starts a countdown timer, which is nice. So it gives you X amount of time to like get the best score you can, and then it shuts it off. But in this cooperative mode, it just sort of knocks you out, and then you need to tap the X button on the beat of the song. Or kind of it's on like the 4th beat, if I remember. I don't know, maybe it was different each time. Now I don't remember. But you kind of hit it on a beat, and you have to hit it a certain number of times per area you're in. So the later stages, you have to actually go for a lot longer than you do in the earlier ones to revive yourself. But you have to hit it so many. It doesn't have to be consecutive, but you do have to hit it on the beat in order to slowly fill your board back up and revive yourself. It's chaos. Only because later on, especially if multiple of you are starting to get knocked out, I don't know if it's our individual interpretation of the rhythm or some delay in the internet, but like there's definitely moments where it's like you hear somebody else tapping just like a little bit before you, and then
it's
threw it off
a little weird. There's like no feedback either. It's just kind of like, all right.
There's like a little circle that flickers, but it doesn't like. It doesn't feel like you're doing it successfully. Yeah,
there's no late, early. It just keeps doing it.
But yeah, and like that was a super fun mode. I think when Yeah, we played the first time. It was me, you, and Mark, and then this time we played with an AI, not stranger, just a fake robot player, which we were kind of worried we wouldn't get paired up with anybody, but thankfully you can just use computer player. And we went with a lower level.
It was, level 5. I think that's kind of what the standard level was.
Yeah. And still totally doable. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think even if there has been a cooperative mode in a Tetris game before, which I don't think there has, I've been racking my brain this whole time trying to think of it. Like, they've done some weird stuff with Tetris. Like, there's the Tetris for the Nintendo 64 that has it will like do weird things to speed. It's only released in Japan on the DD, but it like speeds up and slows down based on you. When you're more stressed, it will speed up and make it harder for you. Things like that. But I don't know they've ever done anything like this. And this, it just, I've not seen that kind of cooperative play in a Tetris game, but I don't think I've seen it in a puzzle game. Right? Like,
not like that. Not straight puzzle game. The first thing I think of is Portal, but that stretches the term puzzle game.
But I think that's a good like comparison, right? Like it's.
But even that is like it's you against the set level, not necessarily. I don't know. It's the level staying stagnant. You have time to figure it out. This is again. It's a wild. It's kind of. It's easy to explain when the board combines, but you don't realize like the chaos it causes almost, and and all of a sudden how your coordination with the other people you're playing with has to kick in real fast. Because if you're going slow and you're taking your time putting your piece down, you're killing the amount of time and the amount of lines you could possibly get to knock out the AI. Which again, if you're playing level area 1 or area 2, probably not the biggest deal in the world. But when you can. In like area 4, those combined, the combined board is a
it's a mess.
Yeah. It's they don't come easy. Yeah, and those boards, they just don't come easy. I don't expect to get 4 boards against. No. You're gonna have to do it 2 or 3.
I will say I do like I think the game's very generous in like those transition periods so that you have like you have time to like set yourself up. It's not so sudden, which is nice.
Yeah, because they also like spush down your board too. So if you have gaps, what I started doing because I was trying to keep low, I was trying to keep a board low, which wasn't necessarily matching with Joe's or the AI. So what I ended up doing, like I started just dropping pieces, even if they weren't like in the perfect place.
No, yeah.
Because when the combination happened, it would just smush everything down, and I will at least be up a couple more lines closer to where you and the AI may have been.
Yeah, there's a lot of those little things you just kind of pick up through experience that help your gameplay. Have you engaged with any of the other like community features or the interaction from Enhance or anything there?
Not a lot, honestly. I really have only touched Connected those 2 main times we played. I've tried to dabble, but I feel like I was late to the party when I started doing it on Xbox a little bit, and then here I never imported my save. I never figured that out. So I feel like I was behind the 8 ball on this on when I started playing on PS5 here. Which and I'm not hurt that I'm not level 30 in this or anything, but there is some cool stuff you get to unlock as you level up. Because don't you get different palettes as well?
You get those, and you also get those from doing the weekly ritual.
Maybe
not
that's
all of them, but the weekly ritual they will usually kind of be themed in with things, and they'll the rewards change each week. But that was a really fun one that took me back to playing Reminisce on Vita, because that one had a big cube like that Peter Molyneux game on phones, and you just played Reminisce on Vita like you normally would, but you and everyone else playing would slowly chip away at the massive cube, and you could see like how much you contributed to it and all of that. And they still do that now with the weekly ritual. But even beyond that, the like they do Discord events all the time, and Hans has like a super active Discord with official staff like hosting community events, showcases, friendly score attack challenges. They randomly will give away things and do all of that. Connected versus event. I mean, I'm just like kind of scrolling back through some of their event channel stuff, and it's like they do a ton. I'm like impressed that it's still so vibrant. I mean, literally all of these posts are one week after the other, just like updates on, you know, this challenge, and like some of them tie into holidays, some of them tie into whatever. It's a cool little community. I guess just we talked a lot about the multiplayer and the stuff in Connected specifically, but I do think it's worth bringing up now. You know, the single player campaign was quite profound, and I think it left a strong impression on each of us. What do you remember feeling when you played through Tetris Effect initially?
So I think the first time I had played through it, I was actually sick. But I remember forcing my way through despite all the head pressure, with headphones, because it was just so damn good.
Yeah, I forgot about the headphones. Yep.
And no, it was just it's just so different. I'm struggling for words other than different and unique, which are words I've used to describe this game in previous episodes of this podcast. But it's just very weird when, like, you know, the first level, you know, it's kind of the beat hasn't like kicked in yet. I think 10 lines is when it finally starts going, but like, you know, it's quiet and there's like this little like soundscape kind of thing, and then all of a sudden, like, instinctively you turn your first Tetris piece and it's like dun 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 dun, and it's like, oh, and then you do a hard drop and another sound comes up, and it's like you're playing with instruments but you don't even realize it. And it's I don't know, it just, of course, you know, you hit your first 10 lines and I was a sucker for the game till the last level at that point.
Yeah, dude, like, it still gets me. There's certain levels that, like, I play through, especially the ones I don't go back to as frequently, but I'll play through them. I just did this past weekend the weekly ritual was like I forget what it was now, but either way, it had like 4 different game modes you could do that contributed to whatever it was. So I was going through and just kind of like trying to best my high scores in each of the different types of gameplay you could do, and just it was throwing me into some different, like, I feel like I tend to go back to certain boards a lot, and it's throwing me into some of the more like wind-based ones that I don't really chase after. Yeah. That theme, and then I forget the other. I don't know, but they all like pop in different ways that you just forget until you're like in it and experiencing it, and there really is like not. I mean, Rez is the only other thing you can kind of compare to it, and you know, it's made by the same people. I forgot about the headphones piece too. That was crucial. I remember the day this came out initially, I remember having to go to the pet store for dog food and finally seeing that. And I was checking my phone the whole morning. And because I think I took off that day, or I was so stoked for this game. And I finally saw from my phone that it was like live. So I bought it, pushed it to my PS4 remotely, and then came home and played it. And yeah, just headphones locked in, and just I don't think I quite did Journey. I don't know. I'm sure that I have it on some podcast episode back then. How long it took me to beat Journey mode, but I feel like I beat it in not a sitting, but
it doesn't take that. I think what, hour or two, probably closer to like hour and a half, 2 hours.
Yeah, something like that.
I think I've played through Journey mode all the way through 3 times. I still have not been able to complete it from stage 1 to the end without dying at least once.
I don't think I have either, and I don't think I've completed. I know I don't have the trophy for completing it on the harder difficulty all the way through.
Yeah, because I know I played through it PS4. I'm gonna say I replayed it at least once on PS4 at some point. Honestly, probably going to Game of the Year. I probably replayed it because it's not that long ago. And then I played it on Series X, and I know I did that in a night. I might have died once or twice, but that was all night. I had my headphones, my Xbox headphones on.
Yeah, dude.
Just playing through it in brand new 4K.
It really was an experience. And every new thing I get, like when I got the TV, I needed to do it. When I got the VR headset, it was like a whole new. Same thing when Mark let me borrow his original PSVR for a weekend. Yeah. I just spent it playing Tetris. It's too good. So those feelings you remember kind of having first time playing through, the excitement, the just your reaction to it, were those the same or different when you first played Connected?
I guess I don't know. I guess we kind of knew some of the songs. If anything, it turned into a dumb inside joke with all of us where we couldn't get through Area 1 without you cackling every 2 minutes because of the Yours Forever line that kept happening when the boards would
tradition that we have upheld.
So I guess I expected some of the same, but I don't. There's yes, the experience playing Connected. You're probably talking with someone. I can't imagine. I can't imagine playing it by without any kind of communication. But you're kind of talking. You're kind of, the audio part isn't quite the same as just a pure headphones by yourself experience. But I don't think there's anything you can top than experience it new for the first time. Because now, whenever I go into Journey mode, I have expectations. I know there's stages that I'm gearing up to enjoy because I like the song and that or whatever. That first time through it is just it's magical in a I guess for lack of a better word.
There's no better word for it. I do remember this feeling special in its own way. It did launch November of 2020, and at that point, I think if I'd have to run it back and look at the date, but I think at the date that this came out, it was exactly a year since all of us had hung out physically. Because you and I were still doing the podcast until February, March, somewhere in there before everything got shut down. But then that was it. And we hadn't seen each other. I mean, I think generally we all still text most days, right? Even if it's just
yeah.
What did I just send earlier? Video games featuring people with mullets. It's important to keep up with your friends and share the good stuff. But
good hentai statue that might surface.
Yeah, you gotta get it out there on eBay. But for that, and I think especially that year, we got so used to just being apart. It was kind of poetic to have Tetris Effect Connected.
Yeah.
Of course, too, the game that all of the themes and everything around it were always about this kind of greater human experience that we all have and this greater connection that we have and all that. But it wasn't truly reflected in the gameplay, right? You kind of are playing Effect. You're, I think, united by the feeling and thought to your opening statement of Tetris is this sort of universal language that we all have learned to speak. But I think with Connected, it just takes it to that next level. And now we have to share our mind in a way, right? You kind of already are, and we're all experiencing the same thing. And that's kind of what I think you get. Obviously, a lot of that's there in Res, but it's also here, just that sort of it's there, I think, musically, but I think like visually and thematically you get that in effect. But to bring it all together with the cooperative play, I think was like really, really special. And I think really special in 2020. I think it still is now. Obviously, we wouldn't be talking about it if it didn't hold up. But I think that too, like, just kind of like stood out.
I think, I mean, it's got to be early on, but like, I think one of the main differences between Tetris and Rez is you can kind of slow play Tetris. Rez, you're on rails. Like, you got to go the pace it's given you. At least like Tetris, you know, I'm not saying I'm doing this stage 12 on one run or whatever, but like, you know, stage 2, I don't have to hard drop. I can just keep dun 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 dun. You know, just kind of play around with the sound, see what I can, you know, do with it. You know, you kind of get to, I don't know, I feel like you kind of get to embrace it a little bit more than Rez. I feel like when I was playing Rez, the highs, maybe after the first playthrough, a high score was on my mind every run past that. Tetris, maybe I'll learn years ago that I'm okay at Tetris. I like I said, I clear lines. I do okay. But I'm never going to be like a high score person. I learned that in college when we had a whiteboard in our little bathroom with our high scores. And I was towards the bottom of that list constantly. So, and I was the one to play video games all the time. So, you know, there it was.
But I think there's also like different intentions with, like, if you sat down and you wanted to if you wanted to chase high scores, like, you can, but this doesn't like force you to be a high score.
Right. Yeah, there's that too. Yeah, I don't know, you just kind of get to embrace it, I think, a little bit more in Tetris than you ever got to in Rez.
Yeah, I think so too. Are there other games you feel have given you similar emotions to Tetris Effect?
There's probably one or two, and I can't think of them. I mean, pure emotion, Walking Dead Season 1. But,
yeah.
It's a totally different game altogether. I don't know. It's different. And there's been games that, I mean, recency bias, Final Fantasy VII, the remake games, but they strike a nostalgia tone, and it's like, that's the updated thing from that, you know, that static background, you know, that you stared at for hours on end. And you know, that's the song, and it's slightly remixed in a nice way. This is completely different. I don't think there's anything else that I don't think there's anything I've experienced like this.
The only thing for me that I think of that I closely associate the two feelings, playing this and not playing Nier Automata, but specifically ending E in Nier Automata.
Oh, yeah.
That, like, pure... Because that's when... I'm not going to fully spoil Nier Automata for listeners. I won't go there. I think it's worth enjoying on your own. But... that's when you get the credit song that runs through different world languages, and there's all this messaging and stuff happening. It's all just sort of about that, like, human connection and, you know, how we're all bonded and we're all one and all that stuff. And, like, it's all very similar, you know, things that you see and feel in Tetris Effect. That's the closest I can think. I don't know.
That's a good example.
Anything on Tetris Effect Connected we didn't cover?
You know, you had me sweating to try to weed some of these areas that I really didn't take notes, so I'm going off of what I remember.
Which was pure and raw emotion. Yeah, those zodiac signs are no joke.
No. Out of Area 1, maybe Area 2 was easy. Area 3, though, when you start to...
It gets you. Well, listener, we're not ranking Tetris Effect Connected just yet. Along with all of our Wii Sports Killers, these are multi-part episodes that we're doing throughout the year. The good news is, because this was the fourth of our Wii Sports Killers, it means the next time we talk about one of the games we already talked about, we'll be sort of starting to close some threads on our conversations. So stay tuned for those. The next one up for that is actually not closing the loop, but it's part 2 of our Halo conversation, where we're going to talk more about how Halo Combat Evolved connected us in different ways. For Tetris Effect Part 2, we'll be doing that in episode 571, which will be in August later this year, so come back for that. And if you're listening to this as it goes up, check out our Twitch page next Sunday, April 21st. I don't know what time yet. Just keep an eye out. And we'll have posts and stuff out there. Check out thefreecheese.com. But we, sometime Sunday evening, are going to be streaming some retro video games. After our console ranking that we did last year, which you can find over on thefreecheese.com, kind of identified some gaps in both mine and Matt's console history. So in the wake of that, Matt and I are each going to explore the Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo libraries, respectively, to see what we missed. So our first episode here, or first session streaming, Matt's going to choose a Super Nintendo video game for me to play. If you don't catch us live, we'll have the archive up on our YouTube page. You can go check that out. Of course, we'll have everything over on thefreecheese.com. That's where you want to be for all of that. We're also on co-host these days. If you're on co-host and you just want another account to follow, I've just been posting the links to the shows, so you can check it out and listen through there. But the fun thing I do on co-host is add a little bit of extra flavor. So if there's some bonus material that Matt and I found when we were researching and playing that we shared back and forth, if there's some weird anecdotes that just didn't quite make them into the episode or whatever, all that stuff ends up over there. Sometimes it's not always that. Sometimes it's just thoughts or other reflections on other things. But yeah, check that out over on co-host, the Free Cheese on there. And that's it. Podcast at thefreecheese.com is the email address if you want to email us. We'll be back next week with Zone of the Enders. Until then, thank you, Matt. Thank you, listener, for listening. See you next time. Bye.